Are your 1 to 5 year olds bedtimes so long they just seem to never ever end? Maybe you get endless requests at bedtime, like more books, more snacks, more drinks, more kisses, more hugs. Maybe your bedtime routine takes longer than 30 to 45 minutes. Maybe you dread bedtime every night, or maybe it's even the hardest part of your day. In this video, I will talk to you about 5 reasons why your toddler's bedtimes are long, and why they take so long to fall asleep. But first, why should you even listen to me? Hi, if you're new here, I'm Valerie. I'm a therapist specialized in birth to six mental health, as their social emotional behavior challenges, as well as their sleep. And I'm here to make your sleep life way easier. And I'm here to help you enjoy your toddler and baby and just have an easier time as a new parent. It's hard enough. So today I'll talk to you about 5 reasons why bedtime is so long that you might want to pull your hair out of your head. Make sure to watch to the end, because the number one reason is the most common reason and the easiest one to fix. But I want you to know all 5 reasons, because if it's not your first time watching me, you know that I like to encourage you to consider your individual information and your individual circumstances and your individual child and family, so that you only use strategies that work for you and your little one, rather than try to fit them into cookie cutter blanket solutions that make no sense for anyone except for the imaginary average toddler out there, right? Makes sense. Okay, so let's get into it. Number 5, and this is actually the least common and the most unlikely, but it's still common enough that I do want to mention it because it still applies to many, many families. And I want you to know that I see you and I know you're there. And so that one is actually a health related reason. So your little one might need a really long time to fall asleep because of something related to health. So things like neurodevelopmental disorders, sleep disorders, and certain health conditions, or even like some deficiencies like iron, for example, can result in needing a long time to go to sleep and are completely health related, and need attention from your healthcare provider, and are not like something you or your toddler is doing wrong. It's just there's something that needs attention that's related to health. So that is the least common, the most unlikely reason, but is still happens to many families. So make sure that if you have any other symptoms that something else is going on in terms of health, make sure to bring it up with your provider to make sure to rule out health related reasons why your little one wakes. All of my content, like my baby and toddler sleep courses, they all talk about most common health related conditions that can disrupt sleep, and I help you figure out who exactly to talk to get help with them. So if you're interested more and you need help with this, reach out or take one of my sleep courses as well. I will link them in the description. Okay, next, number 4. Are you ready for it? It's something I talk about a lot. It's connection. This is probably the most overlooked but most important ingredient in helping you to have your toddler and you to have good sleep, and in getting cooperation from your toddler. So feeling connected with you is going to help your toddler feel safe and secure, which is very necessary for good sleep, of course. So if you are getting more resistance at bedtime, ask yourself, maybe has your little one spent extra time away from you recently? Has today been a really hard emotional day, maybe for you or your family? Maybe they're going through a big change, like starting daycare, getting a new sibling, maybe you moved. Maybe you, for whatever reason, didn't have as many emotional resources available for them because of your own stresses and daily life to stay connected. So these typically do occupy your toddler's mind the most, because so feeling disconnected can show up during lengthy bedtime routines. It can also show up overnight, but this video is about bedtime, so that's why I'm focusing specifically on bedtime. Bedtime is essentially your preparation for spending time apart. So overnight, think about it, you're spending 10 to 12 hours away from each other unconscious. It's a pretty scary, vulnerable, long time to be away from you. In your mind, you're like, what do you mean away from me? What do you mean vulnerable or unconscious? They're right there next to me, maybe sometimes literally on top of you in your bed. Maybe in the room next door. We're in the same house. What are you talking about? But in your toddler's mind, so we as adults, we understand we're not going anywhere. We're going to see them in the morning. They're right there next to us. We understand that. But your toddler, in their brain, in their mind, is not experiencing it the same way. They're still learning that when you separate, you're going to come back together. At nighttime is dark, it's long, we're sleeping, and it's vulnerable. Literally, like back in the day when we were attacked by bears, we could have been eaten while we were asleep. So sleep is a very vulnerable state. You're unconscious. So think of bedtime as a preparation for spending time apart. So for example, if you were going away on a trip, you would maybe feel like you need to spend extra time or extra quality time with your loved ones before you're ready to leave for the trip, to feel confident and happy to go away on the trip. Similar for bedtime. If your bedtime is full of resistance and conflict and disconnection, it's going to take longer, it's going to be harder for them to fall asleep, and they might even be waking up a lot more overnight. Because just like if you were going on a trip and you got into a fight with your partner right before you left, you're gonna have a much harder time relaxing and enjoying your trip than you did if you had like this amazing, connected, good time with your partner before you went on your trip. Similar for your toddler and bedtime. If your bedtime is not enjoyable, relaxing, and a time of connection and joy, it's time for a change. Number 3, your transition. So transition, I mean the routine. The routine is what you're doing before it's time for sleep. It's maybe what you're doing before the routine that is making their starting your bedtime routine easier or harder. So think about what happens before you're starting your bedtime routine. Is it a time that facilitates you moving into your bedtime routine? And I'll explain what I mean. Depending on how your little one's day went and what they need for their body to be kind of ready and tired enough to go to sleep, but not too tired that it's hard to sleep. Some little ones need to let out more energy. Some little ones need to be able to slow down. So if you think that your little one needs to let out more energy in the evening, maybe their day isn't as active, maybe you just know them and it seems like they sleep better after having some more activity, then before it's time for your bedtime routine, add 15 to 20 minutes of rough and tumble play. Rough and tumble play is the kind of play that dads tend to do with little ones. So like hanging upside down, rolling around, climbing, jumping, doing really, really energetic play before you actually start your bedtime routine, to give them the opportunity to let out any extra energy that they need to let go of before they're ready to prepare for sleep. So for some little ones, it's letting out the energy that's going to help them sleep better. Whereas for other ones, they actually need the opposite. They need to slow down and relax. Maybe your day was really fast paced. Maybe lots of things are happening. Maybe they have siblings. Maybe they're the kind of little one that needs down and quiet time more. So think about adding, again, before your bedtime routine, 15 to 20 minutes of just calming down and relaxation time that is not officially the bedtime routine, but is still maybe you lounging around, maybe hanging out on the sofa, maybe reading a book, maybe just doing whatever you find is relaxing, maybe taking a little walk outside even, just to slow down and relax and prepare for your bedtime routine. This can make a huge difference for many toddlers and families. Okay, so reason number 2. So we're getting to the top 2 reasons that your bedtime is so long. and it is your boundaries and limits. So when it comes to toddlers, having good, consistent, predictable boundaries and limits is absolutely essential. It helps them feel safe and secure. It helps their world be more predictable, which again, when routines are consistent and predictable, it's easier for your toddler to get through them because they just know exactly what to expect. But the problem is that you need to be clear on your boundaries and limits at bedtime, and they can have to do with routines, but they can also do with your expectations in your relationship. I will explain this more right now. So first, I want to just explain that about bedtime boundaries. So bedtime boundaries are your routines and your limits and expectations of bedtime and what you will do together to prepare for sleep. Talking about bedtime boundaries is a huge topic, and it's actually one of my favorite things to talk about, and it's outside of the scope of this video. But if you really like what I'm about to say and want to learn more, consider joining my toddler sleep course. I talk all about boundaries and limits in there, and parenting in general, to help you have an easier time and happier time parenting your toddler. Nailing them when it comes to sleep helps you nail them when it comes to other areas of life too, which again adds joy and takes the struggle out of parenting toddlers. So boundaries essentially allow us to say no while still maintaining intimacy and connection in a relationship. Boundaries and limits, they help also protect your relationship from resentment. So for example, as the parent, it is our role to protect our relationship with our toddler and prevent it from getting to a place where we feel like they're overstepping our boundaries. So for example, if you no longer want to nurse them to sleep, but you continue nursing them to sleep, you're kind of letting them violate your boundaries when they're not capable to not. Their job is kind of to ask you, and your job is to put those boundaries where you feel they should be. They have an underdeveloped brain, and they're still learning how things work in healthy relationships. In healthy relationships, we can say no to each other and still stay connected and kind of loving towards each other. Protecting your personal boundaries and limits, for example, for how much time you're going to spend putting them to sleep, what it looks like when it comes to physical touch, like nursing, rocking, like for example, continuing to rock while your back hurts is a violation of your physical needs and boundaries, for example. Protecting those boundaries, protecting yourself from pain while rocking, protecting yourself from spending hours to putting them to sleep can help you be happier in your parenting relationship and actually prevent anger and rage from coming up at bedtime. Anger and rage at bedtime means that you allowed your boundaries to be violated. As the parent, you have to be the one who puts those boundaries in so that your toddler cannot kind of cross them because they're incapable of doing it themselves. You have to put those in for them. So that means that if you no longer enjoy nursing them to sleep, for example, it's time to transition away from nursing them to sleep. If your bedtime is taking such a long time that you become frustrated at the end of it, it's time to change, to make changes to that routine so that it ends before you get to that point. Remember, I talked earlier about how important it is to be connected and happy and enjoyable, and have joy, enjoyable, and enjoy your bedtime together. So sometimes when your toddler is making all of those requests, like, can I have an extra book? Can I have an extra snack? Can I have 300 more kisses? They're really just looking for the boundaries. They're asking you, where are the boundaries? Where are the limits? And that's not a sign that you suck as a parent. It's just a sign that for them, it's not clear or predictable enough what the limits are, and they're looking for those limits because remember I said before, the limits and boundaries make them feel safe and secure. So if they're making these requests over and over again, it's not to be annoying or to be an asshole, it's your sign that, okay, what do I need to do to make it more clear and more predictable? Am I being consistent with these boundaries? Am I saying no, but then changing it to a yes once they cry? Am I just like really unclear with what I'm expecting of them? All of those things can result in your toddler making these requests, and because they're just wondering what are the rules here. Okay, are you ready for the number one most common and easiest thing to fix when it comes to long, endless bedtimes? Are you ready? It actually has to do with scheduling, or in other words, just unrealistic expectations of toddlers' sleep. So oftentimes, toddlers actually don't need as much sleep or as early of a bedtime as people tend to think. Particularly, there is this idea that they should all be sleeping at 7 or 7:30. But the problem is that if your 2.5, 3.5, 4-year-old, if they're still napping during the day, it's very likely that 7:30 is just too early for them to go to sleep for the night. Just because they're getting that nap and maybe they're having a nice, decent morning wake, and the total sleep that they need is just more than they would have had if they go to sleep at 7:30. If you want to learn how much total sleep they need, how many naps by age, etc., make sure to grab the free normal toddler sleep guide link in my bio. So just make sure that your bedtime is actually realistic for how much sleep they need. It could be that you still want your bedtime to stay the same for whatever reason, maybe for your family's lifestyle, maybe that's when you want to keep it consistent, maybe that's when your toddler falls asleep easily, and that's fine. In that case, I would focus on working with the nap or the morning wake. It doesn't necessarily mean that we need to move the bedtime later, but sometimes they actually function better with the nap than without the nap, in which case I might look at moving the bedtime later. It's different for every toddler or family, and I talk more about this also inside the Realistic Toddler Sleep webinar. I tell you exactly how to adjust your schedule. If this is the case for you, I'll link it down below as well so you can check it out. Did you find this helpful? If you did, please hit the subscribe button, leave me a comment. Let me know if you liked it or hated it. I don't know, to help me make more videos like this that you hopefully like or dislike, and then I'll make less of them. And remember that this video is posted for educational and marketing purposes only. None of this post should be taken as medical or personal advice. If you have any health concerns, please discuss with your doctor or healthcare provider, or reach out to us for one-to-one support, or take one of our courses for some direction. If you want to learn more how to resolve some of these issues that I spoke about, or want to go deeper about them, make sure to download the normal toddler sleep guide and or watch the Realistic Toddler Sleep webinar. These resources are both free. I wish you very sweet cuddles and sweet dreams and lots of joy, and I will see you next time.